Hey guys, Tom Barclay here outside the City Ground after Tottenham's 1-0 defeat against Nottingham Forest. Nuno, Espirito, Santo's Nottingham Forest, which must make it a bitter pill to swallow, or more bitter pill to swallow for the Spurs fans, given he obviously was the Tottenham manager, didn't last very long there, 17 games. But overall, to be honest, his team were well worth their victory. This was sort of a prime Nuno team. I watched a lot of Nuno's Wolves when they were in the Championship and when they won that division, and this team sort of bears the hallmarks of that one. Very hard to beat, very organised at the back, and brilliant on the counter. And that's just how they scored their goal for Anthony Elanga today against Spurs, and how they were all round. And from a Tottenham perspective, obviously very disappointing now to have 9 league defeats in the season so far, 4 defeats in the last 5 league games. But perhaps what was most demoralising, I suppose, from a Spurs perspective, was that this reminded me a bit of the Palace game. Actually, I wasn't at the Palace game, but from what I've heard of the Palace game, definitely reminded me of the Bournemouth game, which I was at, in the sense that they conceded in the first half and they didn't really have much in the second half. It was quite limp. For a team that have scored more goals going into this, at this stage, when I'm doing this video, maybe Liverpool will score more tonight to overtake them, but for a team that have scored more goals than anyone else in the league this season, when Postecoglou's football works, they score a lot of goals. To have 3 games like that against good opposition, particularly in Bournemouth and Forest's perspective this season, but teams that Spurs want to be competing with, and to be honest, being higher in the league table, to not even score on any of them is very disappointing. It's the fact that they just had nothing. I mean, they had players coming off the bench here that weren't sort of youngsters, given their injury crisis at the moment. They had James Maddison come off the bench, didn't really make much of an impact. He got a lot of abuse when he came on for his Leicester connections, obviously. Probably a bit of a sort of rivalry that people outside of this area aren't as aware of. This goes back to the minor strokes years ago, but he definitely got quite a bit of abuse from where I was sitting, from the Forest fans, who generally were roaring behind their team throughout this game. But disappointing to see not a lot off the bench from Spurs' perspective. And I wouldn't have said this before, but it feels like they're missing Richarlison. Richarlison, we know blows on hot and cold, and he's often injured, but he often does make an impact when he comes off the bench. And I really feel like at the moment they could do with him being at least as an option off the bench for them right now, because they're really struggling on that perspective. I mean, Werner came on too, didn't really make much of an impact. So yeah, the limp nature of this defeat. This first half I actually thought they were okay, but without being particularly special. But the second half, not to have much going at the moment was a worry. Obviously, we know the injuries they're carrying, players at the back, how much they're struggling on that front, and just the schedule at the moment is really causing an impact on that front. So maybe that's not surprising that they struggled, because even when they've been full strength or much stronger this season, they've struggled on that front. Postecoglou himself, from those supporters, from the Forest fans, in the Peter Taylor stand that I was sitting in, copped a bit of abuse himself. I don't know if there's any priors here when it comes to Postecoglou. I wouldn't have thought so. But he got a few chances of getting sacked in the morning, which you would expect after the run they've been on, so that wasn't particularly sort of specific to him. I do think that's still probably quite premature. He's doing obviously really well in the Cups. I'm not getting the sense at the moment, at least, that there's sort of any sense of making a change. But a sort of pretty standard taunt from the other set of supporters when it's not going well for the manager. But he also got a taunt of you're just a fat Aussie bastard, which kind of suggested to me that there was some sort of history, not that I'm aware of. It seemed a little bit harsh, but there you go. But obviously, from Postecoglou's point of view, not only a defeat, but more problems, more absentee headaches going off the back of it. Because Bradley Dragosin, his one remaining fit centre-back right now, albeit we probably expect Ben Davies to be fit for Wolves, hobbled off at the end. Postecoglou said afterwards that it was an ankle. Felt his ankle problem. We'll have to wait and see. So fingers crossed he's not out for long, because they haven't got any centre-backs right now. Not that I thought he didn't have a great game again today, Dragosin. He's been on some good form recently, but the last couple of matches I feel like he struggled, particularly against Liverpool. And then Jed Spence obviously got sent off on his return to the City Ground. He's waited all this time for a start for Spurs. He's got 4 in a row, and then right at the end of the stoppage time, he picked up a second yellow card, sort of compounding a pretty difficult night for him on his return, as I say, to City Ground. And And now he'll be out of the Wolves game, which is just another blow from a team selection point of view. So they're really up against it from a physical point of view, number of bodies point of view, Spurs right now. But they also didn't really give much for the fans to really get excited about. I mean, we know how much Spurs can blow hot and cold this season on Postecoglou, but today was definitely one of those sort of down performances where you're left, I suppose, questioning the whole approach and whether it will work and all these kind of things. And Ange afterwards was a very brief press conference, or just a few questions he was asked. He refused to blame his players. He rarely does that anyway, apart from when he absolutely lambasted Timo Werner up at Rangers, but rarely does. He pointed to the fact that they're asking so much from them, making them play every 3 days, and they couldn't be giving any more. But still a not a good day really all round for Tottenham. Which will leave, as I've said many times whenever they have a defeat at the moment, those who are sort of on the fence or struggling to be convinced by Ange, another game where they'll have the same feeling after it, if not more. And like I say, compounded by the fact that it was Nuno's Forest that did it to them, who now are 11 points above Spurs. We're almost at the halfway mark of the season. It's 10 points to Arsenal going into tomorrow's game. So they're likely going to win again home to Ipswich, I think it is. So it's going to be more. So it's going to be at least 11 points, you would guess, to the top four. And now, I don't think any Spurs fan at this stage is probably expecting them to reach the top four, but the fact that Forest are in there shows that there was a real possibility, or there remains a real possibility this season. I guess you can go on a run. Just look at Newcastle at the moment. A few wins have put them right back up there. But the nature of Spurs' inconsistency really does leave you sort of not expecting that to happen anytime soon. And today was another one of those moments, really. And it just leaves you thinking this season is hinging so much, as it was probably already, but even more so, all on the cups, on Europe, how they can do in the Carabao Cup, if they can somehow beat Liverpool, despite being absolutely walloped by them just a few days ago. If you can get some players back and get some momentum, then that could be a game changer for everything. But it feels like fans are going to have to realise this is going to be a completely transitional season in the league. Almost a bit of, maybe not a write-off at this stage, but we're not far off that territory. And if Spurs are going to sort of back the Postecoglou project, they've just got to get heads around that and just focus on the cups, which is ironic, seeing as particularly the domestic cups have never really seemed to have meant as much in the last few years to Tottenham or to other clubs in general. But that's the way it's going. Europe feels huge. And this will be just one of those games. Boxing Day, a first defeat on Boxing Day for Tottenham since 2003. And Teddy Sheringham and Tim Sherwood are playing for Spurs when they lost to Portsmouth in the league. I looked up Mad World from I can't remember the artist now. The one from the Donnie Darko was top of the charts, so it shows you how long ago that was. But this will definitely be a defeat that will be hopefully forgotten by Spurs very quickly, starting with Wolves in a few days' time. But kind of summed up. When Spurs have been poor this season and been a bit toothless, they've had performances like this, and this was another one of those. Right, until Wolves, I'll do a video after the Wolves game, and fingers crossed for a better day from Spurs' perspective that day. Cheers, guys.